There is a habit practiced at millions of tables every single day. And most people never think twice about it. They sit down to eat, pour a glass of water, and drink freely throughout the meal. It feels natural, even virtuous. After all, staying hydrated is healthy, right? But here is what very few people understand for adults over 50. And especially those with weakened stomach function. Drinking significant amounts of water during meals is not simply a neutral habit. It is a slow, cumulative process that can dismantle the body's digestive defenses from the very first bite. And the consequences reach far beyond a bit of bloating after dinner. To understand why, we need to start where digestion actually begins. Which is not the stomach but the mouth. The moment food enters the mouth and chewing begins, an enzyme called salivary amylase is released in saliva and starts breaking down carbohydrates. This enzyme works most efficiently at a pH between 6.7 and 7.0, which is close to neutral. When chewing is thorough, salivary amylase has enough time and concentration to begin meaningful starch digestion before food reaches the stomach. When large amounts of water are consumed during a meal, two things happen simultaneously. The concentration of salivary amylase is diluted, reducing its enzymatic efficiency, and the ease of swallowing increases, meaning people chew less, often far fewer than the 20 to 30 chews per bite. That would allow proper initial digestion. Incompletely broken down food particles enter the stomach earlier and in larger form. The stomach's burden begins at this stage. Inside a healthy fasting stomach, the pH sits between 1.5 and 2.0. This is a more acidic environment than household vinegar. This extreme acidity serves two irreplaceable functions. The first is protein digestion. The primary enzyme responsible for protein breakdown in the stomach is pepsin, which operates most effectively at a pH of 1.5 to 2.5. Pepsin activity drops sharply as pH rises, and at a pH above approximately 4, it becomes nearly inactive. At pH 5 or higher, pepsin is essentially non-functional. This matters because every gram of protein from eggs, fish, tofu, or meat must undergo initial breakdown in the stomach before the small intestine can complete digestion and absorb amino acids effectively. The second function is microbial defense. Gastric acid kills the vast majority of bacteria, pathogens, and other microorganisms that enter the stomach with food and water. Research has shown that a healthy stomach operating below pH 2.0 can eliminate more than 99.9% of ingested bacteria within 15 to 30 minutes. The stomach is not merely a digestive organ. It is the body's frontline immune barrier against foodborne threats. A study published in 2008 examined what happens to gastric pH when a glass of water is consumed by healthy adults. Within just 1 minute, 10 of 12 participants showed a gastric pH rise above 4, the threshold at which pepsin becomes nearly inactive. A healthy stomach can restore its acid levels, but this restoration takes time. When water is consumed repeatedly throughout a meal, the stomach cannot recover its full acidity between each episode of dilution. The result is a meal during which protein digestion is significantly impaired. For adults in their 20s and 30s with healthy stomach function, the stomach's compensatory capacity can manage this disruption reasonably well. But for adults over 50, the picture changes entirely. Data from Korea show that in a study of over 3,000 adults, with an average age of 49.9 years, the prevalence of atrophic gastritis reached 72.4%. Atrophic gastritis is a condition in which the stomach's acid-secreting glands are damaged or lost, reducing both acid and digestive enzyme output. In an already acid-deficient stomach, the diluting effect of water during meals has a far greater and more prolonged impact. Bacteria that survive the weakened gastric barrier pass into the small intestine, where they do not belong in significant numbers. The condition that results from this bacterial migration is called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO. In the healthy small intestine, the upper regions are maintained as a near-sterile environment through the combined action of gastric acid and the intestine's peristaltic movement. When gastric acid is chronically reduced and intestinal motility slows with age, Bacteria from the colon ascend into the small intestine and proliferate abnormally. Studies have found that SIBO prevalence in Korean patients with irritable bowel syndrome reaches 48.7%. SIBO is known to increase in prevalence with age, which makes the combination of aging, reduced stomach acid, and habitual water with meals particularly consequential for older adults. When bacteria overpopulate the small intestine, they ferment carbohydrates and proteins that would normally be absorbed further down the digestive tract. This fermentation produces hydrogen and methane gas, which cause bloating, abdominal cramping, and distension after meals. The metabolic byproducts of protein putrefaction in the colon, including ammonia, phenols, indoles, and hydrogen sulfide, irritate the intestinal lining. Over time, this chronic irritation damages the tight junctions between intestinal cells, which normally act as a selective barrier, allowing nutrients in while keeping harmful substances out. When these junctions weaken, the condition known as increased intestinal permeability, or leaky gut, develops. Once the intestinal barrier is compromised, partially digested food particles, bacterial toxins, and lipopolysaccharides pass directly into the bloodstream. The immune system identifies these as foreign threats and mounts an inflammatory response. This is the mechanism by which chronic digestive dysfunction feeds what researchers call inflammaging, a state of persistent, low-grade systemic inflammation that is now understood to be a central driver of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, cognitive decline, joint disease, and many other conditions associated with aging. A 2024 study confirmed that gastrointestinal barrier dysfunction contributes to the systemic inflammation underlying multiple age-related diseases. The path from habitual mealtime water consumption to chronic inflammation is not direct or immediate, but it is real, and it is cumulative. Cold water adds a separate layer of disruption. A 2020 study found that water consumed at approximately 2 degrees Celsius reduces gastric motility, affecting how efficiently the stomach processes its contents. Digestive enzymes, including pepsin, function best at close to body temperature, around 37 degrees Celsius. Introducing ice-cold beverages repeatedly during a meal creates temporary drops in gastric temperature, reducing enzyme activity during the period when protein digestion is most critical. The stomach eventually restores its temperature, but the repeated cycle of cooling and rewarming throughout a meal can reduce overall digestive efficiency. Carbonated beverages with meals create yet another mechanism of harm. The carbon dioxide in sparkling water, soda, and energy drinks is effectively injected directly into the stomach, causing rapid gastric distension. This inflation increases pressure on the lower esophageal sphincter, the muscular valve between the stomach and esophagus. When this sphincter is under pressure, stomach contents, including acid, can reflux upward into the esophagus. Rapid eating, large meal volumes, and carbonated drink consumption are all recognized contributors to gastroesophageal reflux. For the approximately 8.8% of Korean adults diagnosed with reflux esophagitis by endoscopy, drinking carbonated beverages during meals is a direct aggravating factor. The practical guidance that emerges from this body of evidence is straightforward. Drinking approximately 150 to 250 milliliters of room temperature water about 30 minutes before a meal is genuinely beneficial. It moistens the stomach lining, mildly reduces appetite, and addresses thirst in advance, so that the urge to drink during the meal itself is diminished. Research has shown that consuming 500 milliliters of water 30 minutes before meals reduced food intake during the subsequent meal, particularly in middle-aged and older adults. During the meal, water should be minimized to small sips of 50 milliliters or less. If truly needed, always at a comfortable temperature. After the meal, waiting 30 minutes to an hour before drinking significant amounts allows the initial phase of gastric digestion to proceed without interference. Chewing thoroughly is the complementary practice that makes all of this work together. Chewing each bite at least 20 times allows salivary amylase to begin meaningful carbohydrate digestion, reduces the size of food particles entering the stomach, slows the pace of eating, and make swallowing possible without the assistance of water. When chewing is adequate, the need to drink during meals frequently disappears on its own. For older adults with atrophic gastritis, reflux esophagitis, functional dyspepsia, or any condition involving reduced gastric acid output, these guidelines shift from helpful to essential. The margin between a digestive system functioning adequately and one that is failing silently is much narrower at age 60 or 70 than it is at age 30. Daily habits that seem trivial at the table can, over decades, determine the trajectory of inflammation, nutrient absorption, immune function, and cognitive health in later life. The choice made at every meal, how much water, at what temperature, consumed before or during eating, is a recurring signal sent to the body's digestive system. That system keeps a running record. The habits practiced consistently over years shape that record in ways that eventually become visible as symptoms, diagnoses, or sustained health. What gets practiced at the table matters more than most people realize. And it is never too late to change. Individual health conditions including heart disease, kidney disease, and liver disease may require specific adjustments to fluid intake. Persistent or worsening digestive symptoms warrant evaluation by a qualified medical professional. Please consult your physician before making significant changes to your dietary or hydration practices.